Hello, let me see now. Mystic Multi-Magician Mashers. Yeah, that was a malt mention. And thank you to Whiskey Nose for providing the malt mention. And that's Nose, by the way, spelt K-N-O-W-S, right? Not N-O-S-E. Just to clarify that. I'm Ralphie, by the way. Many of you know that. Some of you may be new to my channel. Let me explain what the channel is about. It's about whiskey reviews. It's about quality spirit reviews. It's about reviewing the sort of spirits that you sip rather than turn into cocktails. That's what this channel is about. And this happens to be Ralphie Review 1005. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. So, I walked into my local supermarket in the local town. It's not a big supermarket. It's a small provincial supermarket. So not particularly big, not particularly busy. Mainly elderly shoppers and a few young families looking for the usual predictable generic groceries, and not particularly in the market for luxury items, except it's the end of November when I was in the supermarket, and this is the time of year when the whisky industry has some official bottlings at deep discounts. And I want to tell you why. It's because they want to kind of catch the attention of the passive consumer, the very occasional whiskey buyer who's not into whiskey. They don't particularly like whiskey. They don't even really probably want a bottle of whiskey, but they feel they need to have a bottle of whiskey because in less than in about 6 weeks, it's going to be New Year. And New Year is traditionally what's called Hogmanay. And there's a story about that, which I'll tell you later. And it's quite a Scottish thing with shortbread and whiskey. And in Britain, it's kind of traditional. And the reason for this, I'll give you that story at the end of this review. It's very, very interesting. So I looked on the shelf for the cheapest, most discounted official bottling, which was down from its usual price of £35 a bottle to £21 a bottle. £21 a bottle. Now, to convert that into US dollars, that's about $25.50. It's just under $26. And this is what I got. A bottle of non-age statement, generic, Speyside single malt from Glenkeith Distillery. Now, interestingly, in all these years as a reviewer, I have never reviewed Glenkeith single malt. And there's a very simple reason for that. There's not a lot of it around of interest to be bothered reviewing. The carton, by the way, has been clearly grabbed off the shelf a few times, placed back in the shelf because people are looking at it, kind of curious, saying, I don't recognise that brand, it's probably not very good. And truth be told, when Ralphie is in the bothy, he's thinking, I tell you what, if I go for the absolute cheapest, it'll be a nice entertaining shredder review, and I can tell you just how bad it is. Except, whiskey is full of surprises. It really is. Now, just to give you a wee bit of context with this distillery, I did have a list here with my information on it, and I've left it somewhere else. This distillery is a Speyside distillery which opened around about 1960, primarily to provide filler for blended Scotch brands like Chivas Regal and 100 Pipers, etc. So it's a Pernod Ricard distillery, very much a jobbing distillery. Interestingly, in the past, they've triple distilled their whiskey to make it smoother. And that's basically where this distillery is coming from. It's volume filler for generic high-profile blends. So I'm not really getting my expectations up here, as you can imagine. Chill filtered, yes. Is there any caramel colouring in it? Yeah, there is a bit. 40%, totally standard, but hey, it's £21 a bottle. So what have we got in the nose? Fresh, sweet and sour, slightly gingery, clean, decent, unassuming. This is not really what I'm expecting. I'm expecting something a lot rougher. This is actually well-made whiskey. Slightly flinty, slightly minerally, rich in grains, soft grains, restrained grains. The sensation is medium, soft, medium, sweet and sour. Not a lot of minerality to it. You'll notice that sort of slight umami, cereal umami towards the finish. And just a hint of bitter. Just a hint of bitterness, but very understated and unassuming. When I add water, I'm adding, what, 1 milliliter, right? I'm not adding a lot of water. It's already at 40%. It's already been chill filtered. You know, there's really, I don't want to make it any weaker than the generic standard of delivery, which is a very interesting single malt which has been engineered to be as simple as possible, but it's clean, it's fresh. This would easily go toe to toe with Glenfiddich 12-year-old any day of the week, and hey, it's on offer at £21 a bottle. I'm impressed, actually. With my own prejudices, I should be ready to tear this to shreds from lack of flavour and lack of complexity and lack of signature and identity. But I can't really do that because with the lightness of the whiskey, the identity and the signature is clearly delivered, and it's totally unpretentious. It's really quite honest, and there's no burn, there's no heat, there's nothing about it that actually says badly made whiskey or badly matured whiskey. The signature of the Glenkeith stills is very self-evident, light, grassy, and very moorish. So I've added a few drops of water. I'm going to come back to it again. Again, let's keep this in mind. £21 a bottle. With over £12, well, £13 purely in taxes in the UK. That's giving the producer £10, right? About $12.50 to make the whiskey, mature the whiskey, bottle the whiskey, label the whiskey, and get it out to the supermarkets under supermarket contract. Frankly, I don't know how they do it. One of the wonderful things around Scotch whisky is that even after all these years, with a jaded old hack like myself, there's still room to be surprised. And I am surprised. I'm mildly shocked, actually, that this is delivering as decent an experience as it is. So much so, I'm going back to the supermarket tonight to buy the rest of the bottles as gifts for some friends on the island where I live. Because they're not big whiskey drinkers, but this is absolutely perfect for them. Another taste. Bit more honeyed in the nose, slightly gingery, slightly floral, and on the taste, longer arrival. the bitterness, the ingrained, no pun intended, ingrained soft grainy bitterness improving. It's becoming more interesting, despite the fact that it's of its generic basic presentation. There's quite a lot going on. The chill filtration has inevitably, it's clipped the wings of this whisky, but it's not designed for whisky aficionados like ourselves. This has been bottled for the passive, occasional, periodical consumer who needs to get a bottle in for Hogmanay. And Hogmanay, by the way, you wonder why, if you're ever wondering why in Scotland New Year is such an important celebration, the simple answer is that the Presbyterian Church in Scotland banned Christmas, and for many, many decades Christmas Day was an ordinary working day, and even putting up a Christmas tree was heavily frowned upon and had to be done in secrecy. This is what you're dealing with religious dogmas. And Hogmanay was a name repurposed, removed from Halloween. Because Hogmanay was originally Halloween, and you see this reflected on other Celtic cultures. I'm in the Isle of Man, and Halloween is called Hoptanay, right? Hoptanay is what the Manx celebrate for Halloween, and they call it Hoptanay. They don't call Halloween Halloween. In Britain now, Halloween is Halloween because of the anglicisation of all British cultures. But Hoptanay was originally the darkest time of the year, 31st of October. And this is why there's so much similarity in translation between Hogmanay and Hoptanay. You can see there's very much a similar meaning. And this is how you piece together the history books. So much history around us is just manufactured lies, sleight of hand and suppression, so as to get people's mind, because if you control people's mind, you control the rest of them. 80. I'm giving this 80 out of 100 because it for what it is, and I've got to keep this in context. I can't be a snob about it, although occasionally I am a snob. This is good stuff for what it is. At £21 a bottle, you'll seriously be struggling to get better quality. But you've got to buy at a very specific time of the year. And I think the only other place you're going to find this, certainly, probably a much higher price, would be travel retail. I'm Ralphie. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this interesting and a little bit of a variation in the theme. If you pop back again for Ralphie Review 1005 Extras, I'll be taking things a little bit further and showing how you can entertain the non-whiskey drinker who's bought a bottle of this by up-blending with a spoon. We can all do it. Many established whiskey drinkers don't, should, for a simple reason, there's so much to learn. Thank you. See you soon.